Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Michaela Peck from the Office of Distance Learning. I'm just about to just upload the flyer guiding today's training session. All right, this looks like it. Okay, so you'll be able to see the flyer in about 2 seconds. So the flyer speaks to quiz troubleshooting, and in the description it says best practices in relation to quiz setup will be explored. We will address and discuss popular issues experienced with Moodle quiz setup. All right, welcome again to everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. In this session, we'll be looking at different issues surrounding setting up a quiz within Moodle. If you were at last week's session, you would have seen where we looked at how to configure and set up quizzes in your Moodle course. We also looked at how to mark essay type questions, leaving feedback. We explored the different, well, we looked at a bulk format for uploading various quiz questions, different quiz questions, right, which was a gift format. I briefly spoke on the Akin format, which simply supports bulk upload of multiple choice questions. We looked at the importance of creating, you know, quiz categories. We looked at the question bank. We looked at being able to create different sections in the quiz and shuffling questions or selecting, opting not to shuffle questions. Today's session, and I think the flyer probably should have been renamed in a more suitable manner, because we're going to be exploring best practices but also looking at technical issues. I think that could have headlined the flyer as opposed to just quiz troubleshooting, sorry, even though best practices are mentioned in the description there. All right, so it's not a lot of us, but we're going to begin. Today's going to be a very short session, and this should conclude the series of training sessions for basic and intermediate. However, next week we have advanced. The advanced training session is just a one-off session, which will be done by Mrs. Kamala Anderson. However, I'm exploring the idea of doing a final session, which would be intermediate, which would look at how to improve rather the aesthetic appearance of your Moodle course. So that might be the session next week, and then the other week we can look at the advanced training session. Okay, now as usual, if it is that you have any questions, if you need to interact, you can simply raise your hand. To raise your hand, you can use the icon bottom center of your screen. It is the fourth icon from the list of icons there. All right, once you have raised your hand, I will acknowledge and you can activate your mic. To activate your mic, you're using the same set of options, the second icon bottom center of your screen. If you're more comfortable using the chat, you can leave your message in the chat. I'll be checking the chat every now and again. To activate the chat, bottom right of your screen is a collaborate panel. If you click on that, it's purple. If you click on it, the panel comes out and the first icon represents a chat bubble. That is what you would use to chat. Okay. Now, if you weren't here last week or the weeks before, every training session that we do is recorded, everyone. So we have the training recordings in the online training modules that actually guide the sessions that we do. Now, the sessions are more sensitization and demonstration. So it's not like a workshop where you actually get to work along with me. However, the online training modules are created for you to go back through everything and more that's been discussed on a week-to-week basis, and for you to actually demonstrate your ability of understanding what you have read or watched. Okay, so you are actually required to complete learning tasks or learning activities within these online training modules, and you receive a badge upon successful completion of each unit, and you receive a certificate upon successful completion of the different training modules. We have the basic training, intermediate training, and the advanced training. This is mentioned in every session. I've also mentioned if you're not seeing the training module on your dashboard when you log into Moodle, it means that you were not added. And the process for adding you is simple. You just send an email to myself or Mrs. Kamla Anderson. She's currently on leave, so you can send it to me, and I will just add you to the module. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing the flyer that you are seeing. I'm going to project I'm gonna share my entire screen so that you can see the PowerPoint instead of uploading it. That's just a quicker method. All right, so share screen. Okay. So in about 2 seconds, you should be able to see my screen. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're gonna start off with best practices or standards for online quiz creation, and then we'll delve into the technical issues and how you can remedy those. All right. Now, we want to first look at semantics and sentence structure when creating a quiz within the Moodle platform. Now, the first point here says try to avoid using negatives in your questions and answers. So, for example, a question like which of the following items is not a result of evaporation? So these types of questions can be confusing for students. If it is that you do choose to use negatives, for example, the word not, my recommendation would be to consider writing the negative particle in capital letters or probably bolded text, italicized, or underlined text. Just try to in some way highlight the negative word so that your student does not miss it. Our second point says, try to eliminate the use of imprecise descriptors, which are words like approximately, any, at least. So for example, what is the approximate value of the constant pi? Asking inaccurate questions like these tend to increase the likelihood of you receiving an inaccurate response. I believe that well-written questions will hopefully elicit well-written answers. So for example, a good way to rephrase this question would be to say, express the constant pi to the nearest 3 significant figures. So this then becomes a more specific way of asking that question. Next point, eliminate the use of the option all of the above whenever you are shuffling the answers within the quiz. So whenever the answers for the questions are shuffled, you won't know the order within which the system would generate the questions. So you don't know the order that the students are going to receive the questions in. And all of the above, it might occur as option A, and clearly no answer option appears before A. So instead of using the words all of the above, I would say use the words all of these. So if it is that all of these occurs at answer A or option A, at least the student will know that you're referring to all of the options from A to D based on the different selections provided. Right? And then lastly, on semantics and sentence structure, it is very important that you ensure there are no grammatical errors, no misspellings in your questions, as this can easily throw off students and may cause the questions given to have a whole new meaning than what you originally intended. Okay, so on to our next slide, and this next slide looks at question banks, and this was deeply explored last week. So the first point here, it says create categories for questions, and we looked at this in our last session. Can anyone remind us why it is important to create categories, that we should create quiz categories? Anybody at all want to take the mic on this? Does anybody know the importance of creating categories when you are setting up the quiz in Moodle?
One of the reasons for creating categories is that you can show distinctions. So for example, multiple choices in like category 1 or sections. Am I on the right track?
Yes, you're on the right track.
Oh yeah, so you can separate the types of questions. So essays different from short answers, different from true or false, different from MCQs.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Remind me of your name. I didn't switch back to see who that is.
Oh, Theo Clark.
Okay, Mr. Clark. All right, thanks for that. Right,
No
so
problem.
it easily allows you to organize and find questions when needed. So as Mr. Clark just pointed out, if I have different questions that I want to upload, let's say some are multiple choice, some are essay type, some are short answer, and I want to easily find these, because I've named them and I've created the categories for them, I can easily select them from the categories that appear. So it's as simple as that. All right, so thanks for that, Mr. Clark. All right, we have a hand raised. That is Mrs. Anderson Chong. Go ahead and take the mic.
Hi, Michaela. Thanks so much. Unfortunately, I wasn't at this session because we were elsewhere. But and I didn't get to look at the video as yet. I know about creating categories, but to be honest, I don't remember. I just heard what was said, and the question is this: when I create a test, for instance, my test would have a combination of multiple choice, fill in the blanks, true or false. How
Right.
would that test go if I were to create a category?
All right, so what you can do, so you have you have two options. You can either create one category and put everything, all the different question types in that category, but you name the category so you can easily find it.
Okay.
Why I'm saying that is because your category, or the questions rather for the quiz, might not be a lot. But in a case where, but that doesn't eliminate you creating the category, because there might be categories existing in the course from previous times, and you want to be able to easily identify which category you're supposed to choose the questions from.
Okay.
The other option, if it is a lot of questions, you probably have 50 multiple choice, 50 true or false, 50 short answers. You just want the system to pick, probably to randomize and to pick. We would recommend creating the category, one for the for one question type and the other for the other question types, and renaming them.
Okay.
So probably one is called final exam MCQ, final exam true or false, final exam essay type question. So those are
Okay.
the options. But
Okay.
regardless, we want you to create the category, because if you just upload the questions to the system, they can be lost. Basically, they're in the course. I would consider it lost because it's hard to find it.
Well, can I tell you what I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it helps. For instance, if I'm creating a test for this semester, I would name each one of the question. So each one of them would have for under final exam basic Spanish, for instance, all right? And I would have question one, and I'll put probably multiple choice at the end. And question two would have the same title, multiple choice question two, multiple choice question three, etc. So I don't know if that would make a difference. So if I were to go into the
Right.
question bank, okay.
So
Oh,
you basically give the question that name. So that's a question
right.
text rather, right? So it's easy for you to find. So
Okay.
that is
Right.
good. That
Okay,
is
good.
good as well. Right, right. That is good. That can work. Right, that can work. Um, right, so that's fine. All right. So we're gonna continue. Um, okay. All right. So creating the categories, as mentioned, it allows you to easily find your questions, and it allows you to easily organize the questions for your quiz. Now, the second option here says shuffling. So shuffling the question order within the quiz and shuffling within the questions, it helps to mitigate the risk of cheating, because the students will receive a different order of questions. Now, our fourth point says, if you want the quiz to be randomized, you can create a category for each question type. So this helps you to easily note which questions are MCQs, true or false, essay type, because you can rename the questions with naming conventions that visibly tell you the types of questions that it contains. So this helps to limit the time you would put in the whole quiz creation process, as we are fully aware that the process can be long and tedious. So this is synonymous to what I just mentioned. So let's say you want to randomize the quiz, where you allow the system to now pick from your categories, probably 10 questions from the MCQ, 10 questions from the true or false, 10 from the other different categories. This is good because it takes the manual labor out of you actually creating or adding rather the different questions, adding the 10 questions that you have already uploaded from a massive question bank to your quiz. So the system has this option, as was demonstrated last week, where you can actually select the amount of questions from each category for the process of randomization. So you don't get to select at this point which questions the students get, but you get to select the category that the students get the question from. So each student, based on the amount of questions you have in your category, might get different questions. All right. Okay, I think we have another hand. Miss Hall, you can take the mic. Miss Hall, not seeing your mic. Okay, I'm seeing your mic now. I'm not hearing you, Miss Hall, but I'm seeing that your mic meter is moving. All right, she's reconnecting. You're here now, Miss Hall? All right, if your mic is not working, you can also utilize the chat feature. All right, so if you're unable to use your mic, you can utilize the chat feature. All right, so we will just continue until we have heard from you, Miss Hall. Okay. All right, and then our next point, it says create multiple sections and shuffle questions within each section. So this was demonstrated last week as well. This is where you might have section A to C. So section A, section B, section C. And it allows you to create the different sections, housing the different types of questions, and then it allows you to select the sections that you want to shuffle. You might not want to select, you might not want to shuffle every single section. Let's say you want the multiple choice questions to appear the way in which you have them on the system. That is an option, but you get to create the different sections and to choose which section you want to shuffle. If it is that you don't know how to do this, the recording is available. I'll show you towards the end of the session how to access it. Okay. Okay, another best practice looks at number of questions per page. So we advise one question on each page during quiz creation, maximum 2. And this recommendation does not have to do with how many items can fit on the page, but rather with limiting openings for students to cheat. So here we're giving students less opportunity to collaborate on answers. Additionally, I believe that less questions per page causes the quiz to appear less intimidating and overwhelming to the students, which could in fact affect their performance. Okay, now quiz security. Now, there are 4 things listed here. First of which has to do with the restrict access feature. So the restrict access feature can be used to determine who you want to access the quiz. Yes. So whether by group, whether by first and last name, or some other criteria, you get to decide who accesses the quiz. Okay, let me just head to the chat. I think that might be Miss Hall. I have always been concerned about allowing Moodle to select my questions, as it might not select the questions from the various topics in the correct weighting. So that has to do with how you actually set up your categories, Miss Hall. Because if it is a case where, you say in the correct weighting, the various topics in the correct weighting, right? But as I said, it all depends on how you Yes, I'm hearing you.
But I don't know what's happening. Know that I'm where that is. Yes, but I'm saying, okay, so you're giving a test on, say, 2 units. But of course, within the units, you have different topics, nevertheless. And so for example, multiple choice questions, I'd want to select, say, 2 questions from one topic, 1 question from another topic, 3 from another area, that kind of thing. I find if I should now use a question bank where use the option with Moodle selecting the questions, it may just select all the questions in one area. And so So I never attempted trying to find out how to do it because I figured if that's going to be the case, it doesn't help me because I want to test them on the various areas within the
I
unit.
think my recommendation for that, Miss Hall, is to further filter your categories or question banks rather. So what I'm saying is that let's say you have
Even the difficulty as well, difficulty of the questions.
repeat that.
Even the difficulty of the questions and the type of questions. One could be that is based on knowledge. One could be where I'm just testing plain knowledge, you know. Or another one,
Yeah.
it could be there's a calculation. Another one could be an interpretation. So I'm wary of having Moodle do that for me because I don't
Yeah,
see
man.
Moodle being to
Yeah.
test me like that. So that
Yeah,
filter,
man, that's a good
that's
point.
what work. That filter they're gonna tell me about now. That's
No,
the
man,
filter.
that's a good point, and I understand that point. That's a very valid point. So, what I normally recommend when lecturers mention that is to further customize your question bank. So, within a particular question bank, you can have questions within the same difficulty level. You can have questions surrounding the same specific area. So, you get to determine how you set up the question banks because two question banks can link to the same topic but have two different difficulty levels. So you get to pick and choose from those. So that is my recommendation, just to further filter and customize the question bank to your suitability. Yeah, that is my recommendation.
That seems harder than what I'm doing now.
Right, it might take more work, but that is, remember that when you set this up in a Miss Hall, you have it for the life of your course. You understand? So this is something that you can reuse with students to come for semesters to come. So well, that is the only option. That is the only option and only recommendation I can make for a case like that. All right, but thanks for pointing that out. All right. Okay, so the restrict access feature said is there. You can restrict access to the quiz based on date, your student's name, groups, and your other criteria, password security. So you may also instead choose to password protect your quiz if you only want a certain number of students to take it, right? And if it is a case as well where, let's say, a student or students miss the quiz and you want to just password protect it to grant those students access, you can set up a password, which was demonstrated last week, and that enables you to allow only those students to take the quiz. Now, the third point, there is this function in the Moodle quiz settings that allows you to enable browser security by activating JavaScript. And what this does is that it will only allow the quiz to start if JavaScript is enabled on your student's browser. So when this feature is enabled, the quiz will appear in a full screen pop-up window that covers all the other windows and has no navigation controls. So students are not allowed, as far as is possible, from using facilities like copy and paste. The student cannot copy using the mouse. That is, they cannot select any part of the text using the mouse. The right mouse click feature is disabled. The browser menu is disabled. The shortcut keys like Control X for cut, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, those keystrokes are completely disabled. So that wasn't demonstrated last week, so I'm going to demonstrate that now, the JavaScript security option. So this is the quiz I created for last week's demonstration, and I want to show you how you can activate the JavaScript feature. So let's say you're setting up the quiz and you're filling out the different fields in the quiz shell down to, I believe it is extra restrictions on attempts, right? Below password, you click on show more. Browser security, the option of JavaScript. It says full screen pop up with some JavaScript security. So if this is enabled, you scroll down. So if I click here, by the way, it says that the quiz will only start if the student has JavaScript enabled on their web browser. So I have the instructions. It's very, very easy on how to get students to enable JavaScript. I think I have it on my last slide here, but let me just take us through the process, through the steps one by one. All right, so let's say I've saved this as a lecture, as a setting for the quiz, and let's say now I want to go in as a student to attempt this quiz. So I am going to firstly enable JavaScript on my browser as a student. So I'm using Chrome. The steps are to go to the settings for the browser. Right. I would then click on privacy and security, scroll down to site settings. So it's here. All right. And then I would scroll down to JavaScript. Okay. And then below it says sites allowed to use JavaScript none. So I would just click on add and add the URL for UTech Online. All right, so that is the process. I will just click on add, and this basically means that UTech Online is allowed to use JavaScript. All right, so as a student, I would log in. So I'm going to use a dummy student login account to demonstrate this. It's exam 90. Okay, and this is a quiz. Attempt quiz now, start attempt. So you'll realize it opens a window and there are no browser controls. If I right click, it says that functionality is currently disabled. I can't select anything. If I try to select, it says it is currently disabled. Let's try and copy this question. Click on Control C, everything is basically disabled. So I am unable to share anything with anybody. I can't use the control keys to copy and paste anything anywhere. I can simply type my response, click on next page, and move on. So I can't select anything. All right. I can't navigate in terms of outside of this particular quiz. All right. The only thing which might even trump this whole idea of JavaScript security is that it doesn't prevent students from screenshotting, and everybody knows how to screenshot, right? So if I wanted to click on print screen, I could print screen, and then I could share this with my with other colleagues, my other classmates. If I wanted to snip, I could snip. But what this essentially does is that it has no navigational controls within the browser. Students can't use the copy and pasting facilities. They can't use the right click for the mouse. The browser menu is disabled. They can't use the shortcut keys as well. All right. So that is what it disables. Somebody just raised their hand. You can take the mic. I believe someone just raised hand.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to see where do I go next after I select JavaScript. I
didn't. You are using the Chrome browser?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm now in the settings. All right, site settings. What do I do in JavaScript?
Oh, you click on site settings. You click on JavaScript, and then
right, and then what else?
Scroll down where it says select sites that can use JavaScript. Click
where
on
is that? Where is that?
All right, so just look
I didn't see that, either on your thing.
Okay, let me just go back to the process. So privacy and security site settings. Scroll down to JavaScript, and then it says sites allowed to use JavaScript. So it's right here.
I'm not click on that sites. I'm not. Okay. Allowed to use JavaScript, and then I click on add.
Right.
Okay. Then okay.
So you paste the URL there, or you type it in.
To use JavaScript.
All right, so this PowerPoint, by the way, will be uploaded in the training module, so everyone will have access to it. So the steps are listed here, and you will have access because it will be saved. It will be uploaded and saved there. Okay, and then so that is it for the JavaScript security, something that you can explore. As I said, it doesn't completely eliminate the risk of cheating, but it helps to mitigate cheating. All right, and then we have the option of live proctoring. So academic institutions all over the world, they're using different specialized software tools for proctoring, while others use regular Skype, Zoom, or what I'm using on Blackboard Collaborate to monitor their students in real time as they take their exam online. Well, given the turn that the university has taken with the adaptation of the Microsoft Office suite, we await news regarding a specialized proctoring software. So we don't know what direction is just yet as it relates to that. But I'm gonna mute all mics. I think I just heard some feedback, right? So I don't know what the direction the university is taking in relation to that, but we hope that we will get word about a live proctoring software, specialized live proctoring software to come. Okay. Our next best practice category comes from important settings to verify. So time and date of the quiz, that is very important when you're setting up the quiz. Duration of the quiz. So since you will have your students doing their exam online from time to time, and we want to in every way, or quiz or test online, we want to in every way limit the possibilities of cheating. So here the intention is to decrease the amount of time given to students that could contribute to them trying to cheat. So if you prefer to give more time, then my recommendation is to ask open-ended or essay type questions. Ask questions that give you a glimpse into their thought process rather than an answer that can be easily looked up. For example, probably an answer for a multiple choice question or a true or false question, right? So give them questions that simulate higher order thinking, and ensure that the quiz duration is reasonable and fair to support the type of questions being asked and the amount of questions you're giving your students in the quiz. Number of attempts. This really boils down to the type of quiz you're giving your students. So if it's like a practice quiz and you want students to just gain practice and to become familiar with your content, I would say make it one with multiple attempts. If it's a more structured and more probably a quiz that is graded, then probably one attempt. All right, so number of attempts is based on the nature of the quiz that you're giving to the students. Other important settings to verify are the quiz layout, the location of the quiz within the course, where can the students find the quiz, the navigation method, is it going to be locked, which is sequential, or are you going to allow the students to navigate freely, and also review options. So these were things as well that we explored in depth in last week's sessions. Okay, and then we have the different formats, the different quiz formats. So we looked thoroughly at the gift format last week. We looked at how to do the essay type questions, short answer questions, multiple choice, and the true or false questions. And the Akin format, I had mentioned, it only supports bulk upload of one type of question, and that is the multiple choice question. All right, and these are the different steps or the instructions for activating JavaScript within the browser. So this is something that can be posted in your course for your students to see. So it's just about 5 steps. Yeah, you click on the settings, click on security and privacy, click on site settings, click on JavaScript, and then you select the site that can use JavaScript. So it's 5 different steps, all right, for your students to activate. Okay, so we have come to the end of the PowerPoint that looked at standards for online quiz creation. There are some questions. So I have something before me, a piece of paper before me, which has 10 frequently asked questions that we normally get from lecturers regarding their students taking quizzes online. Okay, so the first question that, or the first issue that I want to mention that lecturers have communicated to us is that students can't access the quiz. So the student can't see the quiz on the course page, or if they can see the quiz, they can't access it. Okay, can anybody tell me why that might be so? Anybody at all? Miss Hall.
It could be hidden.
It could be hidden. Good, that is one. Anybody else? That is one. Anybody else wants to try? Why can't my student access the quizzes? On the course page, as a lecturer, I can see it. Quizzes set, ready for students to take.
Could it be that the time or the date has not yet come, or it has passed?
Right, so it could be an issue with the date. So the quiz could be closed, right? The date could have been already passed. So let us look at it. This is my quiz. If it is that the quiz is hidden, so the quiz can't be hidden by itself. It would have to be a case where the lecturer hides the quiz. right? So here it says it is hidden from students. If it is hidden from students, it's not hidden from you as a lecturer, but there's a little note to let you know that it is hidden. All right, so it's simple. To unhide, you click on the edit settings for the quiz and you click on show. The other thing might be a case where the quiz is already closed. So if you wish to reopen the quiz, you click on the edit settings option for the quiz and you go to the date section. So where it says timing, ensure that the quiz date is set up to allow students to take it. All right, pretty simple. So if the quiz is there but the student can't access it and you know it's there, you check to see if it is visible to the students and you also check the dates. Okay. The next frequently asked question, how can I confirm if my student has logged in and attempted the quiz? Right? We have received a lot of communication in the past from lecturers saying that their student mentioned trying to attempt the quiz, but you know, they can't see that the student has attempted the quiz. What do they do? Okay, so when you write to us about issues of this nature, we have administrative privileges in this site that actually gives detailed reports about everything as it relates to the site. So from the moment that you log into Moodle, your actions are logged. Once you log in, we can see that you have logged in. Lecturer, student, everybody. Okay. However, while we are able to provide you with a detailed report as it relates to what your student did, if they logged into Moodle, if they attempted an activity, you also as a lecturer within your own course have the option of accessing logs and reports for seeing if your student actually attempted an activity. All right, so let us look at that. So I am going to use a dummy student account to access this quiz. All right, and earlier as well, I had, before I came into the session, I had used a dummy student account to access this quiz, but I think I'd cleared that attempt. I might have. All right, even when you clear an attempt, by the way, the system still logs it. So it will show that the student, even though you have cleared their attempt, it will show that the student still attempted because it logs just about everything. Okay, so what I just did, I just attempted some questions as a dummy student. So I'm going to submit all my attempts. Okay, and it says no more attempts are allowed because it was only one attempt for the quiz, but the status for the quiz for the dummy student, it says finished. I'm gonna close this. I'm in as a lecturer here, and I am going to look at the logs for the quiz. So let's say your student has mentioned that they tried to attempt the quiz or they clicked on a question and nothing happened. You actually get to see if the student even clicked on that particular activity. So let's look at it. So to access these logs, top right of your course where the gear icon is, you click on that. It's the actions menu. You click on more. Under course administration, you scroll down to reports and you can click on logs. So there are different types of reports which you can explore, but we want to zoom in on the log report. Okay, and it says choose the logs you want to see. So it's for the Moodle training course. You can select the student. So let's say one of your students, exam 90 is my dummy student. Let's say I want to see the actions on this student for a particular day. So it can be all days or particular days. I'm going to click for today. Okay, and you get to see all the activities in the course. But the activity I want to zoom in on is a demo quiz. All right, I want to see all actions, so I'm going to click on get these logs. Okay, so when I scroll down, it's showing me different things. So it is showing me to remember I had used the same student account to access from earlier today, but let's look at the actions from 12:34. 12:34 today, it says that the quiz attempt was viewed. All right, so that basically means that the student started attempting questions. All right, so it shows me the difference. If I click on this, it is showing me that the student took the quiz, and it shows me in detail here the different questions that were attempted, which ones were not attempted, what they got wrong, and what they got correct. All right, if it is a case where the student did not attempt the quiz. So let us look at another student who actually did not attempt the quiz. Let's look at exam 91. That's another dummy student. Get these logs. All right, it says nothing to display because the student did not click. If the student had even clicked on the quiz, it would have shown that. All right, so this particular student did not click on the quiz. If I go back to exam 90, get these logs, it shows me that even the quiz attempt summary was viewed. For the quiz attempt summary to be viewed, this means that the student submitted all of their responses. All right, so these are different things that we can look out for. If it is that it's a case where you find that this does not help you, you can contact us and we'll be able to provide a more comprehensive overview of your students' activity within the site. And this is not only for the quiz, this is for any activity within your course, any activity, and I believe as well any resource. So if it is that you want to see if your student clicked on a PDF, it will be shown in the activities section and will be shown here, and the system will be able to tell if they clicked to view. Okay. All right, the next frequently asked question: if a student did not get to access the quiz, what can be done to facilitate them taking the quiz? So there are several options. You can simply reopen the quiz. All right, to reopen the quiz, we just looked at that. You would just edit settings and modify the date if you want to reopen the quiz. All right, if it is a quiz where it's one attempt, it won't negatively impact any other student because they won't be able to take another attempt on the quiz. Okay, if it is a quiz that has multiple attempts and you only want the students who did not take the quiz to retry the quiz, I would advise setting up a password for the quiz. That's one of two things, or you can duplicate the quiz and then assign a password to it. If you prefer not to just assign a password, you can duplicate the quiz. When you duplicate the quiz, the attempts on the quiz are not duplicated. So only the quiz questions will be a part of the quiz and the students will be able to attempt the quiz. When you duplicate the quiz, remember that you can modify the options as well. Okay, so if you want to just have one attempt on the quiz, if you want to rename the quiz to say, probably in brackets, just for your own knowing that this quiz is a duplicate quiz. This quiz, you could put in the description that this is the quiz that students should attempt. They missed the first quiz. You know, there are several options for facilitating students who missed a quiz for whatever reason. Mrs. Sean, can you take the mic?
All right. I'm glad you brought that up. I should have mentioned it some time ago. Myself and a colleague of mine, we have attempted duplicating quizzes, thinking that the quiz that you duplicated, you can make modifications without it affecting the original quiz. But we found that that's not the case. Or is it that we were doing something wrong?
No, man. When you duplicate a quiz, all right, so let us just
I'll tell you what has happened to us, because when we went back to the original quiz, all the changes that were made in the duplicate is reflected in the original quiz. So we
like what? The settings?
All the changes, if we change a question, it is reflected in the original quiz. So we've decided that if we wanted to do anything, we have to start from scratch again. You know,
man, as it relates to the question. All right, so listen.
This is what I'm saying. When we talk about duplicating a quiz, we thought that we can go ahead and modify certain things, make minor adjustments and stuff, changes to, you know, so it can be slightly different from the original without it affecting the original quiz. But we realized that's not the case. That's not the case that in our situation, and that's why I'm saying, is it that we did something wrong? Because we've never been able to be successful.
I can't say because I wouldn't have seen the process that you took. However, if you duplicate a quiz, they stand alone as two separate items. So if I duplicate demo quiz and I have demo quiz and demo quiz 2, if I want the changes from demo quiz 2 to be made to demo quiz, I have to make the changes on the 2 single quiz because there are no 2 separate quizzes.
That
right?
has never been our situation or our case at all. We've tried it.
That is strange.
Yes, and we've run into problems literally with students.
So hold on there now. So when you duplicate the quiz, what changes have you made? Give me an example that you
For
have
instance,
seen.
let's say we probably modify a multiple choice question and we say Mary lived in Kingston, or we want to say Mary lived in Portmore for the next one. That change is reflected in the original quiz.
Okay,
Every
so
change that is made is reflected in the original quiz.
Okay,
in our
so
experience.
I get to know. So those are not the set. I thought you were referring to the settings of the quiz, because what we're looking at
modify here, whenever I want to modify, I was expecting that I could be able to do that without it affecting the other test at all, the original one.
No, that is totally different. That's a totally different point. You know why? Because remember that what you are modifying has to do with the actual questions in the question bank. So though that is already tied to the quiz, I thought you were referring to quiz settings. Remember that we're looking at the password and we're looking at changing dates.
No, I'm not looking at but I'm talking about, we're talking about duplicating a quiz, and I'm saying I'm glad it came up because as it relates to duplicating a quiz and making changes to the quiz itself. Right.
Right. Yeah, man.
So then you're saying that that cannot work without it affecting the original quiz itself. That's all I want to know.
Right. So that is a good point. So if you make changes to the question, it doesn't matter. Even if you have 10 of the same quiz with those same questions, or 10 different quizzes, sorry, with those same questions, whatever changes you have made to the question is going to be reflected in the question bank. So it's going to affect every single quiz that has that particular question or those questions.
Okay.
All right. So what we recommend, if it is a case where you want to duplicate the quiz and you want to change the actual quiz question, is that you probably do it, add the questions to a category, make the changes, and then re-add them to the quiz. That is what we recommend. Because if you modify a quiz, remember it is saved to the question bank. There's no possibility.
Yeah, we know. We know. But as I said,
as it relates to configurational settings, the changes are individual to the different quizzes.
Okay, that is minor. All right, thanks.
All right. Okay. All right. I thought I'd heard another hand being raised. Okay. Now our next point, you set up the password for the quiz, but you forgot it. So if you set a password for your quiz, even though you're in as teacher, the system still requests that you enter the password to preview the quiz. It's pretty simple. If you forget a password you have set up for your quiz, you edit the settings, go to extra restrictions on attempts, and you can unmask the password by clicking on the eye. All right, remember that the password is case sensitive, so if it is that you have a capital letter, common letter, it has to reflect the same way when you're entering it in the field to gain access to the password. Okay, how do you give instructions within the quiz? Okay, so there's a description box. It doesn't say instruction, but this is the box that you would use. So it's the second field beneath name that you would use to give instruction to your students. So by default, you'll realize that based on configurational settings, instructions will be shown in this area. So let's say I have saved this quiz, save and display. You'll realize that instructions based on the settings that you have selected are shown, but you can enter your instructions here. This could be a voice instruction, it could be text, whatever it is that you want to give to your students as it relates to this quiz, you enter it in the description box. Okay, next question, why are all of my quiz questions on one page? Okay, all right, so there is an option, I think it's a layout. You get to decide how many questions are on each page. Remember, our recommendation from the ODL is 1 to 2 questions per page. All right. However, if it is that you have all questions on one page, or whatever the option is, and you want to change your selection, it is done from the layout new page setting. All right. And if it is a case where you had all questions on one page and you come back here and you change it to something else, the change will be made for that quiz. All right. If the quiz is duplicated, you won't see a reflection of this new option in the other quiz unless you have changed those settings. Okay. Why are my students receiving immediate feedback while taking the quiz? Okay. On the layout, we have an option called question behavior. If you have the question behavior to be immediate feedback, automatically what will happen is that the system will select that during the attempt or immediately after the attempt. So why it is not selected now is because I had deferred. All right, so this is what was selected. Deferred feedback, sorry. All right, if I was just setting up the quiz and I had immediate feedback, what would happen is that these would now be selected. The system would select them for me. And it's so easy for me to overlook this. Just select immediate feedback, scroll down and save and display. All right. So when you have selected whatever it is you have selected here, you have to ensure that you make the review options specific to how you want the students to receive feedback. So deferred feedback basically means that after the fact, students will receive their response. But after what? Is it immediately after the attempt? Is it after the quiz is closed? Well, after the quiz is closed or later while the quiz is still open. Okay, so if I have these options selected here, later while the quiz is still open, that basically means that the students will be able to receive their attempts at this time. So if I disable these and I select after the quiz is closed, well, I'm not able to select these now. Hold on, let me try different. Not sure if it's my mouse. Okay, not sure why I'm unable to select this after the quiz is closed. I'm not sure what is happening. Oh, we don't have a closing date for the quiz, do we? No, we don't. Okay. All right, so I just enabled that. So this is now enabled for me. All right, so the quiz was just open. We didn't have a closing date, so that would have disabled these options. So just saying here, when you have selected deferred feedback, just ensure that you come here on the review options and make the individual selections as you see fit. It's very important. Okay, the next question we normally get, how can you insert pictures in a quiz after you have done the bulk importation? So remember that if you're using a format like the Akin format or the GIF format, and your questions actually contain pictures, you won't be able to insert those in the notepad document, unfortunately. So after the quiz has been migrated, if 10 or 5 of your quiz questions have pictures, you need to insert pictures. You have to do that after the quizzes have come over. What I normally recommend is that you do it before you add them to the quiz. Okay, and you do that from the question bank, not within the edit quiz mode. So to access the question bank, you click on the actions menu, click on more, scroll down to where it says question bank and click on questions. All right, so what it allows you to do here, you can select the different categories. So let's say I want to edit from demo quiz. Let's say my question here, this question here needs an image. I'd click on edit setting, okay, and I'll place my cursor where I want the image to appear. Click on the image icon, browse repositories, and then I would select the image for that question. All right, scroll down, click on save changes. All right, so I preview my question by clicking on the edit and then the preview option. and that is what it would look like. If it is a case where you need to insert a video or any other type of media, that is basically how you would edit the question to reflect these insertions. Okay, Mrs. Strong, can you take the mic?
So you're saying I can't edit it otherwise? Can I not just click on the name of the quiz and click on edit quiz? Couldn't I do it from there?
Click on the
edit, click on the quiz from the main page, the name of the quiz, and then click on edit quiz.
Right, but if you do it like that,
right.
So yeah, if you do it like that, it might not be saved to the question bank. It might only be reflected for that quiz.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, because yeah, man. Why? Because remember that this section here. Okay, so let's let us just test it quickly. Let's say this quiz, I'm editing this quiz here.
Right.
All right. What does LMS stand for? Let's say we're editing these questions. I'm going to click on the edit settings here. All right, this is already in the quiz. This was already done by me. Okay, let us use this first question. What is Moodle? Let's say I want to edit this. Insert an image.
Right.
Let's use a different image. All right, and I save it. Okay, let me just preview what is Moodle. Okay, so what is going to happen? What should happen if I check in the question bank? This question should have an image. So let us test it.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to refresh this. What is Moodle edit and preview? Oh, it comes over. Is it the same image?
Yes, I think.
No, hold on.
No, it's not the same image.
No, it's not. Hold on.
Really?
Hold on. No, it's not. Hold on. Let us see. I don't remember where I grabbed these questions from. Is the thing. Yeah, it's not the same image, but it could be two different set of questions from different question banks. Yeah, man. Because based on our demonstration last week, we had added some individually, and we had done the importation of them.
So this is done using the Akin or the other.
No, man, these are the gift.
Okay.
These are gift.
The gift, right. What
should happen though? So it's not the same question, which means that it's not the same picture, which means that this would have been added separately. But what I'm saying to you is that whatever changes you make here for this quiz, you're not going to be seeing the same changes in the question bank here. All right, so we're going to test it. We're going to test the theory. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add one more question to this question bank, demo quiz 4. All right. So let us just create a quick question. So we're going to call it test question. All right. And yes, no. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to save this. So demo quiz now has 5 questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this same question. Oh, can't add or remove because I have attempts. So let me just remove the attempt quickly to demonstrate it. Delete selected attempts. All right, so if I refresh, this should be gone. Good. All right, so we're going to add at the very bottom of section B, we are going to add from the question bank that particular question. All right, so this is it, test question, and it's here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the image here. So you are saying if I add it here, no, you were saying the easier way is to add it from here. That's what you were saying, right, Mrs. Anderson? You are asking if it could be added from here.
Yes.
Right. So I was saying you can add it, but it would not be reflected in the question bank. So we're going to edit settings here. All right, let's add a whole new image so we don't get confused. All right, so speaker and upload. All right, and save. Okay, so we're going to scroll down, save the changes here, and just preview to ensure it's actually saved. Good. And then we're going to come back here and refresh. So this would be the question, preview. Oh, it actually does work now.
Okay.
Ah, thank you. This was never the case.
Okay.
This was never the case. Okay, good. All right, so that means that the changes that you now make, so we have to be careful then, because sometimes what we would normally do is to edit, like make temporary changes to questions for a particular quiz, and not want the change to be reflected in the question bank for other quizzes. You understand?
Oh.
So we normally use that to, yeah, man, we normally use it to make temporary changes, because whatever changes you make in the question bank, it is reflected in the quiz. But we don't know if you make a change. We didn't have that option where if you made a change in the quiz, here it is reflected in the question bank. Yeah, but thanks for that. All right.
So let me ask a question. I don't usually use I can't remember the gift and the other formats to create tests. I always just create it straight in the settings there. Not in the question bank either, right? And stress out myself. Am I to understand that these questions are not saved in the question bank? I'm asking a silly question, I think.
So if you add the questions here, if they're not saved in the question bank,
no, man. If I create my quizzes, all my quizzes normally I go to quiz and I create my quiz. I don't go into the question bank. I just create it. Is it that it's not saved in the question bank?
No, man, it is saved, you know, but you have to search for them, because if you don't create it where a category is selected, you have to search to see which category it places it in for you. But it is saved. It is in the question bank. So prime example of that would be here. You're seeing different categories. So for example, it automatically creates categories like top or default, but these are not categories that you create. The system creates it, so you have to be searching now each category to see which category did you put my questions in. You understand? So it is saved, but you'll have to search to see where there it is.
Okay.
All right.
So then the changes you're saying, usually it's as a result of when you create the quiz using the gift format.
No, man, it doesn't matter which format.
Okay.
It doesn't matter the format. But our demo was for the gift format that we did last week. Alrighty. I think that basically covers we had a question about giving feedback. I can remember a question about how do you give students specific feedback for question. We had explored that last week. I'll just quickly go over that, and general feedback as well. Okay, so as it relates to feedback within the quiz, if I click on the edit settings option here, you'll see an option that says general feedback. So you get to enter general feedback here for the quiz. So this might be a feedback as it relates to content surrounding the quiz question. So let's say the student gets it's a general feedback, so it's not specific to if they got the question correct or wrong. This could be additional information as it relates to the question being asked. If it is that you want to give specific feedback, this is what an essay type question, we can use this option. Let's say it's a multiple choice question and you want to give specific feedback. You'd use a different answer feedback slot. So for each choice, you can select, you can enter rather what you want the feedback to be. If the answer is incorrect, you have selected the incorrect response. If the answer is correct, you can enter a customized feedback. for that section. All right. And then lastly, how do you assign marks to questions? So by default, the system assigns 1 mark to multiple choice and true or false question. I think for essay type questions, it assigns 3 marks, but you can change it. There are 2 ways you can change it. It can be changed from the setting here where it says default mark, right? You can enter what you want the mark to be, scroll down and save, or it can be done from this screen here. So if you click on the pen, click on the pencil, you can enter the mark that you want and hit the enter key on the keyboard. Right. And as you could have seen just now, because I had an attempt on the quiz, I was not able to edit the questions. I wasn't able to make certain changes. All right. So if it is that the quiz is already taken, then that option is null and void because you wouldn't want to delete a student's attempt. I just did this because I'm doing a demo with a dummy student. So it is always very important to ensure that the marks for the questions, you know, are being set up before your students start to attempt. Ensure that all the settings are properly configured, not only the marks, before the student attempts the question. Yes, Mrs. Strong, you can take the mic.
All right, 2 things. It'd be good if you were able to also get somebody to look at the quiz for you, because there are times when you don't even realize that you have errors in the quiz, even though you look at it yourself. You know, that's something that, yes. And 2, as it relates to the feedback, like when I give practice activities, I tend to use the feedback sometimes as a way of guiding them in the correct way to process the information. So if they see like something wrong, you know, I'd ask them, what does the rule say about so-and-so? Read back on page so-and-so to see what it says, you know, to kind of help them to also use that as a way of cementing the knowledge and stuff, and getting a better understanding of the knowledge and stuff. And again, as I said, give them multiple attempts and all of that. So that is what I tend to do with the feedback sometimes. Not just this is incorrect, but how can you guide them to help them to think about the information a little bit more.
Right. That's a useful point. Thanks for that, Mrs. Anderson. Okay. All right. So we have, I believe, come to the end of our session. I'll use this opportunity now to take any questions that you have, any concerns, any doubts, anything that you'd want cleared up as it relates to, you know, the quiz setup, the configuration, importing questions, the settings. Do we have any questions at all? You can raise your hand, I'll acknowledge and you take the mic. Or if you prefer to use the chat, that option is there as well. Any additional questions?
No,
okay.
The information was clear. If I have any concern, I'll be sure to...
Mr. Clark, you're very low. Could you repeat that, please?
Sorry about that. I'm saying no questions from me. The information was clear. If I have any questions, I'll definitely shoot you an email.
Okay, no problem. All right, anybody else? Everybody is fine. Everybody is an expert in quiz creation, it seems. No additional questions.
Oh, we're intermediate. We're intermediate.
Okay,
intermediate
sorry.
proficient.
Okay. All right, so I'll take that as a good sign. That's what I love to see. If you do have any questions though for future, I'm leaving my email address in the chat. See, my keys are going by the minute, by the second, I should say. I'm leaving my email address in the chat, so you can shoot me an email. My extension as well is 3136. You can call me if you prefer to do that. All right. So thanks again to everyone for attending today's session. I had promised to show you how you can access the recordings for the different sessions that we have. So remember, if you're enrolled to the training modules, you're reflected on the dashboard. The dashboard takes a couple of seconds to load. Okay, so I'm just waiting for that to load so I can show you what the course looks like. We have 3 courses. It's the Moodle Basic Training Online, Moodle Intermediate Training Online, and the Moodle Advanced Training Online. The first session that we did in June looked at basic training. That is for that online module. The rest of the sessions we have been doing are part of the intermediate training module. So that is the one that we have been working in for the past couple of weeks. And then week after next week, we will have a training for the advanced level. Okay, and that is what it looks like. It just loaded. This is what it looks like. So the intermediate training online. If you're not seeing on your dashboard, just send me an email and I'll add you to the course. The different training sessions for each topic covered is contained in that unit. So this is what
I don't
it
have
looks like.
Moodle access just yet, so I'm waiting for them to get me so you can add me to it.
Okay. Who did you forward your request to?
I think Mrs. Richmond sent it over yesterday when I went by the campus for all my accesses because I have no email, I have nothing.
Oh, okay. You are new,
Yes, I
Mr.
am.
Clark? Okay, welcome.
Thank
Okay, good
you.
to have you. Yes, I trust you'll have a, good journey, good experience. All right, so no problem. So as soon as you gain access, then, Mr. Clark, you'd have to write to me so I can actually add you. All right. So
Okay,
when you have that access, you just let me know.
no problem. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Okay, so for last week, we looked at the initiation and setting up of the quiz. The recording was uploaded here. So for today's session is still a part of the quiz because, the intermediate training module is finished. We would upload that session below this one. Okay, and I'll also be sharing the PDF that I used to guide today's session. It will be uploaded in this section as well. All right, so thanks again to everyone for attending. Thanks for the interaction. Take care. We will see you next week. Bye bye.
Okay, bye, Diane. Thank you.